Exactly. Just to let you know, we are recording this session so we can host it on our website. We now have the ability to live stream here, so we live stream all of our commission meetings. We've done it for our last 2 commission meetings, so we're very excited about that, to be able to reach more people. So this is not being live streamed right now, but we are just merely recording it. So keep that in mind when you do ask questions. I will probably repeat the question again because I have to speak into the microphone in order for it to pick up. So I typically don't use a microphone because I figure you can hear me. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started. There is a copy of the presentation in your packets if you'd like to take notes. Feel free to stop me at any time if you do have questions. Some things have been revamped from the last few years. Also in your packets is a copy of the Citizens Clean Elections Guide. So this is not just for participating candidates, but really for any candidate or anybody who's interested in campaign finance and the rules of elections and things that are needed. So a lot of stuff in this packet is mentioned in the presentation, but this goes into more detail, more depth, gives you references of the statutes and rules from which our rules are cited in. So, oh, I forgot my clicker. Hold on. That won't help at all if I can't advance the presentation. Or if it doesn't want to go at all. Been having issues with this clicker. Might have to call someone in here and do it for me. Sorry about that. I think I'm okay, thanks. All right, so a little bit about the Clean Elections Act. What is the Citizens Clean Elections Act? The act was passed in 1998. It is a voter-approved initiative. It was passed by the voters of Arizona into law. Voters actually collected the signatures for it to get on the ballot. So it's a 100% voter initiative. So we've been in existence for about 16 years now, changing the landscape of public financing and campaign finance and voter education too in general. So we do touch all of those areas. The act was created to promote participation in democracy and fight corruption in politics. The act also established campaign funding for campaigns. That's one of our mandates. Campaign finance enforcement. We do enforce campaign finance laws here. The commission has authority to do that. And also to educate voters. So if you have received if you are a registered voter or have somebody in your household who is a registered voter, you receive our newsprint pamphlet once during the primary election and once during the general election. So we send out about 1.8 million of those, once in the primary and once in the general. So we do reach a number of households in the state. The purpose of Clean Elections, right from our preamble, is to restore citizen participation and confidence in our political system, improve the integrity of Arizona state government, and promote the freedom of speech under the U.S. and Arizona constitutions. And that is directly from our statutes. That is what our mandate is to do here in the state. And every policy and every program that we have, everything that we do, we believe flows back to this purpose. So if you're out there and you're collecting 5s and you say you're running as a Clean Elections candidate, this is just a little bit of information for you on what Clean Elections is and what our purpose is. So when they ask you, where are you receiving your money from if you're running as a Clean Elections candidate? The Clean Elections Fund is not appropriated by the legislature. So it's no tax dollars from the general fund. It is not taxpayer money. Where does our revenue come from? It was independent funding source that had to be created when they passed the initiative. So $5 qualifying contributions is one. So when you're out there collecting your fives and you're applying for funding, you give us all of those $5 qualifying contributions. So typically, if you're running for a state office, it's about $1,300. So we get $1,300 from you, and we cut you a check, if you're in both primary and general, about $40,000. So a little bit of trade-off. In fives. So you turn in a little bit more. You turn in a little bit more in fives. So the total amount for a legislative candidate usually comes out to be about $1,300, so a little bit less. The bulk of our revenues do come from a 10% surcharge on all civil and criminal penalties throughout the state. So unless you've had a speeding ticket or, I don't know, some other kind of noise violation ticket or something like that, unless you've violated state law and been slapped with a civil penalty, you have not contributed to the Clean Elections Fund. So, but if you have had a speeding ticket, you have contributed to the Clean Elections Fund. We also do have, as I mentioned, enforcement authority here, and so we do have prescribed penalties in statute. So the commission is allowed to assess penalties on candidates for statute and rule violations. We have seen those dwindle over the years in large part due to our education efforts of candidates and our willingness to work with candidates on potential violations that we do find. So if the commission does find a violation and assess a penalty, that is also remitted into the fund. We do also receive a small number of voluntary donations, and these are donations. They are not tax credits. The tax credit went away in 2012, so we used to have a dollar for dollar tax credit that people could write to the Clean Elections Fund. I think it was $735 or something near that amount, and receive a dollar for dollar tax credit. That went away in 2012, but we do have people who still say, we believe in clean elections, I've always contributed to clean elections, here's a $100 check for your fund. So we do still have those people who want to donate to the Clean Elections Fund, and it is merely a donation. It's not any sort of tax credit. And those are smaller and smaller every year. So a little bit about Arizona elections, just a little bit of the basics here. I checked the March 1st voter registration totals today, and as of today, we do have 4 recognized parties in the state of Arizona. So we have the Democratic, the Green, the Libertarian, and the Republican parties. The Americans Elect Party did not have enough registered voters to maintain as a recognized party in the state. So they were in 2014 a recognized party. And you can find those registration totals on the Secretary of State's website. If you are not a member of one of those 4 recognized parties, you are now considered an independent. You are under other, or sometimes it'll be party not designated. So sometimes they're also referred to as 341 candidates. So if you hear that term, it means they're an independent. Candidates and political committees. So the first thing that you need to do if you are interested in running for office is you need to file your statement of organization with the Secretary of State's office. This is found on the Secretary of State's website in the elections section, and it's a computer-generated form that you will fill out and you bring down to the Secretary of State's office. If you have not done this yet and you are interested in running for office, this is the first thing that you need to do. You need to do it before you raise any money, before you spend any money, before you circulate your petitions or distribute any literature. This is absolutely what you need to do. It is your first step. You can be one of 3 candidate types. You can either be an exploratory committee. If you're not certain which office that you want to run for, you can say, I'm going to explore this office. And as long as you're an exploratory committee, you can still collect money. You can collect your $5 qualifying contributions. You know, those are still possible. You can spend money. The only thing you can't do is turn in all your petitions and say you want to get on a ballot. You have to switch to a different candidate type at some point. You can, yeah. So you can explore. the possibility of running for office. Your candidate non-participating, also referred to as traditional candidates, are candidates who have not opted in to use the Clean Elections program. So if you are a participating candidate, you'll select the participating committee, and you can switch between those two at any time. So there are some guidelines, and we'll go over what those are. If you're a traditional candidate and would like to become a participating candidate, that is definitely possible. And if you want to withdraw from participating in the Clean Elections program, you can do that too. This is just a chart on the qualifications for candidates from Congress on down to state representatives. And I just throw this in here so everybody can see the references and the citations that dictate the qualifications for candidates. Yes, Representative. What do I have up there? 4 years. We have 3 seats open this year. Yeah, we have 3 seats open. So it alternates between 2 and 3 seats. So we have 3 seats open on the Corporation Commission this year, and all 90 seats in the legislature are open. No, I'm like, I guess that's a little small. I can't even read it anymore. Required candidate filings. This is for all candidates, regardless of what your committee type is. In order to get your name printed on the ballot, you do need to file your nomination petitions and your nomination paper, which includes your affidavit of qualification, and campaign finance statement, and a financial disclosure statement. And for federal candidates, you have the option of doing a statement on recall. All state offices are subject to recall. So you will file all of that paperwork. If you want your name printed on the ballot for the primary election, you need to file it between May 2nd and June 1st at 5 o'clock p.m. So that is your window to bring all of your nomination petitions down to the Secretary of State's office and say, I have collected enough petition signatures, and here are my financial disclosure statements. And those are personal financial disclosure statements, not campaign finance reports. Your personal financial statements, and you turn those into the Secretary of State's office, and hopefully you will not get a petition challenge, and your name will be printed on the ballot. I don't have that off the top of my head. It's usually 2 weeks after, I'm pretty sure. So it's by the middle of June. I think that they're all done, but I can get back to you and get you that information if you want, for sure. I don't have the challenge window in my brain. Please keep in mind that the Secretary of State's office gets very busy around June 1st at 4 o'clock p.m. So bring in your nomination petitions early, and they will thank you for it. Yes?
So it's not specifically a clean elections question, but with these nomination petitions
Mm-hmm.
And the signatures that I'm out collecting, what's the, so I'm running for the Senate,
Mm-hmm.
with 1 seat,
Mm-hmm.
right? So people in my community can only sign for 1 candidate.
Right.
And so what's the rules on, like, if I was to challenge the petitions? It's, if they sign for me according to a certain date, is it just if I find the first one to turn them in?
You know, I don't specifically know on petitions. I would definitely refer you to the Secretary of State's office on that, or yeah, I don't really have an answer. I've never actually accepted nomination petitions, so I hear it's quite a process. We do have some people in our office who have, and I can probably get that answer for you. Okay. But your nomination petitions are also a rolling submission, so you can go and file earlier in May and continue to add to your nomination petitions up to that maximum amount that you need. And the March 1st voter registration numbers are the ones that dictate how many petition signatures you need. So again, those are on the Secretary of State's website to find out how many petition signatures you need. So write-in candidates, in order to be a write-in candidate, you do file your nomination papers, and it's no later than 40 days prior to whichever election you want to participate in. The only difference is your name will not appear on a ballot. Your name will be posted at the polling places for people to actually write you in, but they physically need to write in your name. They cannot print your name on the ballot. It's not going to be on any promotional materials, any pamphlets, anything like that. So you do need to have your name written in. And in lieu of that, you don't turn in your nomination petitions. So you don't circulate petitions. You just simply turn in your affidavit of qualifications and your financial disclosure statement. And I have here on the slide the dates to the last day to become a write-in candidate for the primary or the general election. So how to become a participating candidate? You file an application for certification. You can find this in the Secretary of State's campaign finance reporting system. It's the same system in which you used to generate your statement of organization and create your campaign committee. If you file your application of certification at the exact same time, so if you check the box that says, yes, I want to be a participating candidate when you're filing your statement of organization, it'll generate your application for certification as well. And you take that to the Secretary of State's office, and they accept that. We do not accept applications for certification here in our office. The Secretary of State takes that in and then electronically transmits it to our office, and we have 7 days to accept or deny your application for certification. If you do it at the same time of your statement of organization, it is easiest for you. It is also easiest for us. But if you decided that you wanted to be a non-participating candidate, and then 2 months, 3 weeks, I don't know, 5 months later, you decide that you do want to be a participating candidate, you can do that. You can switch over, but you'll need to file a campaign finance report. And it needs to be all of your campaign finance activity from the day that you created your organization, so the day that you filed your statement of organization, up until the time that you are turning in your application for certification. And we need to review all of your campaign finance activity to make sure that there are no violations of the Clean Elections rules or the Act. Because we don't want to certify you as a participating candidate and then turn around and have an enforcement action either generated internally or brought by your opponent because you suddenly became a participating candidate and did not have your campaign finance activity previously remedied. So usually if somebody does file a campaign finance report, I review those pretty quickly and let you know if there are any errors or things that you need to return and amend. If there's not, then you get accepted immediately to be a participating candidate. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the $5 qualifying contributions, which I imagine everybody in here right now is still collecting. So, yes, I have had the question was, has anybody qualified? I have had 3 legislative candidates qualify, all from the same district, and they qualified in January. So they were ready to go. After January 1st, you are able to qualify as a participating candidate and receive your Clean Elections funding. But at that same time, as you're turning in all of your 5s, you also have to turn in all of your nomination petitions. So participating candidates are the only candidates that are allowed to turn in their nomination petitions and all of their nomination paperwork prior to May 2nd. They're allowed to do that so they can receive their Clean Elections funding, because we're not allowed to fund anybody whose name is not qualified to be on the ballot. And until you've turned in your nomination petitions, your name is not qualified to be on the ballot. So they have to have collected all of their signatures and all of their $5 qualifying contributions in order to submit those prior to the filing period. Yes?
Earlier you said that people can continue to file new petitions.
Mhm.
Can you do that for the Clean Elections as well?
No. So your petition signatures, you have that month to file them. And you can continue to supplement throughout them. Clean Elections, you apply for once. So that's not a rolling thing. So if you were a Clean Elections candidate and you say, oh, I'm going to go down and file all of these things before the filing period, it would just not be possible to continue to supplement your 5s.
So, but I mean, so if I'm ready to turn my 5s in, I have to turn my signatures in, and that's the only time I can turn signatures in?
No, just for your fives.
Oh, yeah.
You can continue to turn in signatures as a participating candidate up until June 1st. So,
Sorry,
yeah. No. Oh, was that your question? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So the $5 qualifying contribution process and the petition process are two separate things, but they overlap a little bit, and so it does get kind of confusing. So we right now are in the middle of the qualifying period. That started August 1st, 2015, and it's running through August 23rd, 2016. And when I look at this slide, I can't believe we're closer to August 23rd than we were to August 1st. I remember creating this and thinking that August 23rd seemed so far away. So during the qualifying period, candidates collect their $5 qualifying contributions. They also submit them to the Secretary of State's office in order to receive funding. And during this time, you're also allowed to raise and spend a limited amount of early individual contributions and personal family contributions. And I will go over those a little bit later in the slide. Right now, I'm just going to cover the qualifying period and the application process. We'll go over some campaign finance stuff after this, so I won't forget, I promise. The qualifying period ends 1 week before the primary election. So please keep that in mind. August 23rd is 1 week before the primary election, and that is the last day you can collect $5 qualifying contributions. Depending on which office you're running for, there is a minimum amount of $5 qualifying contributions needed. If you're running for Corporation Commission, it is $1,700. That is the minimum number. If you're running for legislature, it's $250. We recommend you collect at least 20% more than what is required. And we'll go into some mathematical examples of why that is necessary, or why we encourage you to do it. Not necessary, I suppose. Your minimum number is what you need in order to qualify for your funding. But we encourage you to collect more fives than what you need. You can collect more than 20%. So you can collect as many fives as you want. As there's a max on your petition signatures that you can turn in, there's not a max on the number of fives that you can turn in. So, and then one more time over the deadlines, August 23rd is the last day to collect your $5 qualifying contributions. August 30th is the last day to submit them to the Secretary of State's office.
And
Yes.
any extra ones, I don't get to keep, right? Like I'm still turning them over to you and you're giving me the $16,000 check? No
Right,
matter how many
right.
times I give you?
Now, right, that's essentially correct. Now, you can keep fives if you want. You do need to be in the qualifying period. So if you're submitting your fives after the qualifying period, they need to be all remitted to the fund. So if it's August 24th and you're submitting your $5 qualifying contributions, you're better off to submit all of those than to keep any behind.
And so then let me ask another question, and then I feel like I'm asking the same question, and I'm sorry for how this is going to sound, Tom. I have too many. What if I have too many fives? Right? So I only want to turn in so many.
Mhm.
What do I do with the rest of them?
Use them as seed money.
Or I already have that too.
You already have that maxed out. Then you can either, you can write a separate check to the Clean Elections Fund. You don't want to turn them in to apply for funding. You can write a separate check to the Clean Elections Fund, or you can return them to the contributor.
So then we would be allowed then to use, I was wondering about a duplicate. So if there's a duplicate.
Yeah.
And let's say we did max out our seed.
Mhm.
So we could keep that and then give a separate check with showing these individuals as going to the.
Clean Elections Fund. Yeah, you would just say this number of fives was remitted to the Clean Elections Fund. If you have duplicates, if you don't want to return it to the contributor, that's always a possibility. We do have candidates who receive fives after they've applied for funding, and what they do is they just turn around and write us a check. So, and typically you can report that as income. You need to report it. You need to report it because it's coming through your bank account. So you would report it as income under $5, and I would, in the memo line, write $5 qualifying contributions received after qualification, returned to the Clean Elections Fund. So, so you just merely write a check to the Clean Elections Fund for those, and just note it on your campaign finance reports.
Or
So.
we could return it to the.
Or return it to the contributor. That's perfectly fine too. If you're going to return it to the person, you can give them the check back and not cash it. But if you're going to return it to the Clean Elections Fund, you need to have it go through your bank account
Okay.
and report it.
So the less messiest thing is to try to get it back to the person who gave it.
To give it to the contributor is probably the easiest thing to do. But sometimes people, if they get them through eQual, and they haven't closed their eQual in time, that's a little more difficult. So those are things to think about. But if you come across that, I'm happy to help you at that time
Because, I mean,
if you have problems.
If it's just a check, so like I get fives in the mail, right? People mail
Mhm.
me fives. So if I get it, I'm about to turn my fives in soon. If I keep getting these checks, I can just rip the check up and be like, hey, I don't need your money.
I would actually Xerox it and send it back to them. I would keep a record. I would always keep a record of everything you receive in the mail and everything you're sending back, just because you want to be able to notify them. Yeah. Okay, so the $5 qualifying contribution, it does need to be in the sum of $5 exactly, cash or check, and the check does need to be made payable to the candidate's campaign committee. So don't have it written to you personally and then deposit it into your personal account and then write a check for your committee. Make sure whatever you are receiving goes into your candidate campaign committee bank account. Utilize one bank account for all your campaign finance activity. Run it in and out of a single account. It'll be the easiest, cleanest thing you can do for your committee. I'll tell you that now as somebody who is doing my third election cycle in this position and capacity, and I have seen candidates try to utilize credit cards and separate bank accounts and all sorts of stuff, and it gets very, very messy, not to mention in violation of several statutes if you use more than one bank account, so Clean Elections statute. So just be sure that all your campaign finance activity is run out of a separate campaign bank account that is merely dedicated to your campaign. You are going to deposit all the fives in there, and then when you're getting ready to apply for funding, you write a single check to the Clean Elections Commission, and that's how that's done. The $5 qualifying contribution can be from a registered voter of any party. So unlike your petition signatures, you can collect a $5 qualifying contribution from an independent, from a member of the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Republican Party, and the Democratic Party. Sorry, I had to think of those off my head again. So a member of any party, as long as they are registered to vote. If you are running for a legislative office, they need to be registered to vote and reside in your district. If you're running for a statewide office, you can collect them from anywhere in the state. So just as long as they are a registered voter in the state of Arizona, you can collect a $5 qualifying contribution from them. Your petition signatures are something completely different. So it's not the same as. You cannot give anything of value in exchange for a $5 qualifying contribution. So you can't buy somebody a Starbucks or a Big Mac and say, I'll give you, this if you give me that. That doesn't work. You can't do that. It needs to be a voluntary basis that they give it to you. A married couple, if they just want to write one check for $10 to you, that's perfectly fine. They both need to be on the bank account and they both need to sign the check. That's so that somebody is not giving a contribution in somebody else's name. And that's where that comes from. If somebody is going to write you a check for $10 and they are both going to sign it, they need to fill out separate forms. Don't have them fill out the same form. It won't be counted as two people. It's counted as one. So make sure that every individual fills out a form regardless of how they deliver their money to you. $5 qualifying contributions can be solicited or unsolicited. You as the candidate can always be the solicitor. On any form, you can be the solicitor. If you're going to have somebody solicit on your behalf, they need to be a volunteer. So you can pay for petition signatures. You cannot pay people to collect $5 qualifying contributions for you.
So that would even be someone hourly?
Yeah, no, volunteer basis, strictly.
Campaign staff.
If somebody's on your campaign staff and they're doing work for you as a
Scheduler
as a campaign person, but you can't go out and have somebody collect fives and pay them,
$5
yeah, you can't, I mean, like petition signatures, you say, I'll pay you $1.50 per signature, go out and do this, that's prohibited, so,
But if we have someone that's hired on staff that's verifying our petitions, verifying the $5.
if they're doing more than collecting and soliciting for you.
Right.
So-
If most of their work really is doing
campaign.
Yeah.
coordinated campaign
Yeah,
work.
I mean, if you're
They are not really considered paid to collect.
Yes.
right, think more along the lines of somebody who is paid per five, merely to collect five, merely to do that solicitation job.
Just make,
Yeah,
I couldn't hire a person and entitle them the collector of $5 clean elections contributions. That would be a violation.
I would not deem somebody to be the sole person collecting your $5 qualifying contributions and pay them.
But we have someone who's coordinating our signatures and coordinating our events. That person could.
Yes, anybody who's volunteering for your campaign can collect fives and solicit fives on your behalf. Paid members of your campaign staff can collect $5 qualifying contributions for you. So just not that they are merely compensated to go out and collect the fives. If somebody is going to solicit fives for you, they need to be eligible to register to vote. So they don't need to be registered to vote in Arizona, but they need to be eligible to register to vote. If you do run across somebody who is not registered to vote and they would like to register to vote and give you a five, you can do that for them on the same day. So I put in here a little bit about who is eligible to register to vote in Arizona, and voter registration qualifications. In 2004, Prop 200 passed, which required proof of citizenship in order to register to vote in Arizona and created a bifurcated system. We have people who are eligible to be federal-only voters. They do not provide proof of citizenship, and they only vote in federal elections. If somebody provides proof of citizenship, they can be a registered voter in Arizona. They need to be 18 years of age on or before the next general election. If you do run into this and there's somebody who is 17, but they'll be 18 before the next general election, they're not eligible to give you a $5 qualifying contribution. So even though you can register them to vote, they can't give you a $5 because they need to be qualified as a registered voter on the day they give you the $5 qualifying contribution. So they need to be a resident of the state at least 29 days prior to the election. They cannot be convicted of treason or felony unless they've had their civil rights restored. They cannot be adjudicated incapacitated, and they need to be able to leave their name or their mark unless a physical disability prevents them from doing so. So those are the requirements of becoming a registered voter in the state. How would you possibly register someone to vote? You're probably thinking. We do keep voter registration forms here in our office. The Secretary of State has voter registration forms, and the County Recorder's Office also have voter registration forms. So if you are going to be hosting events, fundraising parties, I would recommend that you also have voter registration forms there as well. The official voter registration roll is maintained by the County Recorder's Office, so every county maintains their own roll. Methods of registration include online registration, so this is servicearizona.com. It's probably the easiest thing to do. I know when we go out to events here in town, we actually bring our iPads with us, and we have that there immediately available for people to register to vote if they would rather do it that way than through a hard form. Some people do like to do that, and some do not. We actually did a couple of fairs up in rural Arizona, and we had no cell phone access, and we had no Wi-Fi access, and we actually had to revert to the paper forms to register people to vote because we couldn't have them get on Service Arizona. So be aware of your venue if you are going to provide some kind of electronic ability for people to register to vote. So we do have the state registration forms, and there also is a federal voter registration form. Like I said, if they would like to be a federal-only voter and not provide proof of citizenship. Unfortunately, if somebody registers as a federal-only voter, they are not eligible to give you a $5 qualifying contribution. You have to be a registered voter in the state of Arizona in order to get a in order to receive a $5 qualifying contribution from them. Motor vehicles, so the driver's license application, you can also register to vote with that driver's license application. People do need to re-register whenever they move, they change their name, or they're changing their political party affiliation. So that is when you are required to re-register to vote.
I have a question
Yes.
about the registration vote. I have a family law practice. Sometimes divorces occur after the registration deadline, and by court order, the name is changed. But there's no way that they can submit their voter registration in that time period. So,
If somebody's name does change after the registration deadline, the county will have records, and they will be able to go back and to see that that person is an eligible voter. I would just recommend that they contact the county directly, county elections, and they'll work with that person in order to make sure that they do receive a ballot. Because if they are a registered voter, they will receive a ballot, and if there is a name change, they are able to see the proof of that name change. So the $5 qualifying contribution, we have the forms available here in our office if you would like some. I'm happy to give you as many as you would like. Typically, we give out 20% more than you would need. So for legislative office, we'll give you 300. But if you go through all those and you say, oh, could I have some more forms? I'll give you those too. You can develop your own form if you would like. Some people like to put their picture on them. Some people like to put their slogan on them. That's perfectly fine. If you are going to develop your own form, please send it to me. My business card is in your packets, and you can email it to me, and I will approve it because there's statutory language that is required to be on that form. And I need to make sure that it's all there because we don't want your forms kicked out when they go for verification. We don't want your opponent filing a complaint saying that your forms are not valid. So if you are going to utilize your own form, email it to me. I will give you approval to use that form. 3 parts are, the nice thing about our forms is they are in 3 parts already. The top white copy, that will be your original that the individual signs and you turn into the Secretary of State's office. You will keep a copy for your records, and you will give a copy to the contributor. So if you are going to develop your own form, please make sure that you are able to keep a copy for your own records and to be able to provide a copy to the contributor. That can either be in an email form, a hard letter, however you want to do it is fine. You just need to be able to provide them with some kind of receipt of contributing $5 to your qualifying contributions.
I have a question on the contribution forms. Prior to obtaining the triplicate forms, if you're using basically a copy run out of the triplicate forms and you copy it each page of your last one, that's still fine.
Yeah, yes, you can definitely copy the forms. We have them on our website. You can print them off. You can use those. We have the same form available there, or you can, Xerox them, use a copy. That's perfectly fine.
And I noticed sometimes when people sign the contributor form or fill out the contributor form, 2 things happen. One, they don't include their middle initial, which is on their voter registration. Does that invalidate the form?
No,
And 2, sometimes they sign in the solicitor and then you have to draw arrows, or is that a problem?
no, they cannot sign in the solicitor box. So if somebody signs in the solicitor box, they need to fill out a whole new form. Yes, sir.
One last thing. A lot of times on collecting, people don't have email addresses.
Email is not something that's required by law. That's something there that's easy for you to utilize and add to your voter registration or your voter roll or constituent rolls. Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Can a solicitor sign, can the contributor
I don't think I've ever, I mean, I guess if somebody's out soliciting on your behalf and they're gonna give you $5, then,
It had-
sure.
It had more to do with people mailing them in.
Yeah, oh, that's fine. I mean, that's not gonna, the solicitor information will not disqualify a $5 qualifying contribution. Let me put it that way. So,
Can I write in their address for them?
you can write in their address for them, their signature needs to match. But, the solicitor information is not something that is technically required. It will not invalidate your form if it's not there. But I will tell you, for yourself, for your own protection, if somebody is soliciting on your behalf, you want them to sign that because they're acknowledging under penalty of perjury that, that person gave them $5 in order to receive that form. And the last thing that you want is somebody out there, collecting forms, bad forms for you, and not signing as a solicitor. Another way to collect $5 qualifying contributions is through the eQual system. This was a pilot program with the Secretary of State's office and the Clean Elections Commission in 2012 and 2014. We created this system, which actually won a Harvard award. We were very excited about this. You can collect your nomination petitions on here, so any candidate can do that, whether they are a participating candidate or a non-participating candidate. So whether you opt in or out, you can collect candidate nomination petition signatures on here. You can also collect a $5 qualifying contribution on here. And how this works is this system, the eQual systems, links to the motor vehicles registration database. It links to Service Arizona. So when somebody goes on, they put in their driver's license number, their date of birth, their address, and it tells them who are candidates in their area that they can give a $5 qualifying contribution to. If somebody does not live in your district and they want to give you a 5, the system won't let them. It'll only let them contribute to candidates who, 1, have opted in to use eQual, and 2, who are in their district and they are eligible to give to. If you're a statewide candidate, your name will always come up. So it's kind of like a pre-verified $5 qualifying contribution. I'll put it that way.
Everybody is eligible.
Yeah, I mean, it's automatic, and you don't have to collect a form from them. You do have to sign up for PayPal because the user has to utilize PayPal. And it's easily transferred into the campaign finance reporting system. And Tanya, did you have a question?
I did, when I get the confirmations, it says that so-and-so paid $5.47.
Right.
So is the 47 cents going to PayPal or going to
So
Elections?
here's how I like to have you think about this. So what's going to happen is you'll get the confirmation that an individual has paid $5.47. You are not going to receive $5.47. You're only going to receive $5.01. The 46 cents is the user charge that was charged to the person giving you the contribution. How I like to think about that is, think if somebody mailed you a $5 qualifying contribution. They put a stamp on it. They paid, what are we up to, 49 cents to mail that to you. Same kind of thing. You know, you don't count the 49 cent to mail it to you. This is and the user paid this charge. So now you did receive 1 cent over. That does need to be reported, and you need to report it under other income, interest, dividends. It's under the income tab on the campaign finance reporting system, and I think it says interest, dividends, other receipts. And then you write me a check that is probably not going to be worth the 16 cents that you're returning to me. But that's what the rule says, and that's the mechanism that comes up.
We give you the 1 cent.
Yeah. Yeah, we do need to get that money back because you can't take it. Essentially, it is technically a contribution, and you are only allowed to collect $5 exactly in $5 qualifying contributions. And that 1 cent overage does need to come back to us, and you report it in a different mix. So don't report people as contributing $5.01 to you.
Okay. So here is the final question on the PayPal. Sometimes a household uses one common PayPal account.
I would recommend that they use different debit cards. Yeah. I do know that there have been some technical issues that have come up with people utilizing the same PayPal account or the same credit card number. I would have them call the Secretary of State's office on that. We actually don't have back-end access to the system over here. It's solely maintained by the Secretary of State's office. So if somebody is coming up with a problem where it's giving them an error that they've already contributed, which is what I'm thinking.
It allowed two clean election contributions out of a single PayPal account.
They could have had, well, just as Apple Pay or anything else, you can have multiple cards linked to one account. So it could be so that they had it come out of separate accounts. Or just as a married couple would write you a single check and both sign it, they could have a joint checking account and they each gave you 5 out of that account, and that would be permissible. It's the same thing as a check. Yeah. I would highly encourage you to utilize eQual, or at least think about using eQual. This is a opt-in system. So you're not automatically signed up for it. If you want to enroll in it, you do need to opt in to do that. It's on the Secretary of State's campaign finance page. I would really encourage you to do it because you can collect up to 50% of the minimum number that you need. So for legislative candidates, you can collect 125 $5 qualifying contributions through here that are going to be pre-verified voters that live in your district and eligible to give you. And you don't have to have hard forms for these people. When you import the $5 qualifying contributions into the campaign finance reporting system, it's going to print out a separate list for you, and it'll have their signatures on it from DMV. And that is what you will turn into the Secretary of State's office in lieu of all of those forms. And it's really nice when some of those forms come up in your random sample. They're pre-verified. So we're going to talk a little bit about that now as we're talking for applying and qualifying for clean elections funding. So this is the only form, the vendor application form. And I put this at the front of qualifying and applying for funding because this is the one form that I need you to bring to me. I don't want your 5s. I don't want your application for certification. I don't want your application for funding. I cannot do anything with those. This one, I absolutely 100% need in this office in order to cut you a check. So, which is the most important thing in the end game that you're going for. Well, one of them. I guess winning is what you're going for. You can fill out this. It's on the General Accounting Office's website. I've included a copy of it in your packets. We have it on our website under popular links. If you need a copy of it, I will email it to you. You can fill it in as a PDF. However you would like to do it, I will get this form to you. This designates you as a vendor with the state of Arizona. We do not cut checks here in this office. General Accounting Office does that for us. So we have a statewide accounting system, and we need to have those checks cut. So you need to be in the system in order to receive a check in your name. If you have questions on how to fill this out, I am happy to work with you on that. If you want to fill it out today and leave it with me, I will hold on to it for you until you apply for funding. Otherwise, I would recommend when you go to apply for funding, you stop by our office and drop off this form to us. It can typically take 1 to 2 days for the General Accounting Office to enter you into the system. And I've seen some pretty quick turnaround on 5 verification forms before. So, yeah, oh, yes, Mr. Chapin.
We would sign this as an individual. We would not.
So there's 2 ways that you can do it. One, you can use your social security number and make sure that it matches the name on your social security card exactly. If you are going to use your campaign's name and you have a federal employer identification number, an FEIN, you can use that too. Just make sure that those names match. You can go on, I believe, to irs.gov and apply for an FEIN. That's not really something that I deal with here in this office, but if you would rather use that than your social, you are definitely welcome to do that. So you can do it either way.
But we're not a partnership. We're not.
You're an individual.
So we're an individual.
And then I think in the subcategory, it's individual sole proprietor. So I can definitely help you fill those out if you have questions when you come in to do that too. So just remember, this is the only form I need in my office. And if you apply for funding and I don't have it, I'll probably contact you and let you know. So preparing to apply for funding. Let's assume you've collected 20% more forms than you need, and you can collect more than that if you would like. But hopefully you've collected 20% more. You're going to want to verify all of those forms that you're collecting before you submit them to the Secretary of State's office. Because the county recorder's office, since they maintain the official voter registration roll, they're the ones who are going to verify the forms. And they're looking to see if they are signed, dated, and if the person is registered to vote in your district, or if they're a registered voter at all. Verify for those things. Verify that they are signed. Verify that they are dated. And I will tell you, in 2014, I usually see one issue in election cycle. In 2014, this was the issue. Dates in the past and dates in the future. That made absolutely no sense for the time that the $5 qualifying contribution form was collected. Verify your dates. You don't want it to be,
Like someone just put a date in the future.
it would be like, you know, if you collected it on 9/14/2014. Impossible. But you could have collected it on 9/14/2015.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, make sure your dates are accurate. You don't want to have somebody write 2017, 2016, or make sure that it's done in how we read dates, not in a European manner too, where they put the date, the month, the year. So make sure your dates are accurate. Your form will be invalidated if your dates are not right. And I saw that with numerous candidates last year. So I don't know what happened, if they cracked down on the dates or what, but make sure that not only is it dated, but it's dated appropriately.
So in other words, the year is correct.
Well, because you could,
I'm just confused.
because you can have one that was given to you in 2015 or 2016, but only after August 1st, 2016. So make sure it's within that qualifying period. That's the only time that you can collect $5 qualifying contributions. And it really should not have been before you filed your statement of organization. So,
Yes, for me, it have to be after I file my organization,
right,
correct?
right,
I
yeah.
couldn't have just been collecting.
No, because you cannot collect any contributions prior to forming your candidate campaign committee. So just be aware of the date and make sure the date makes sense when you're receiving them. Remember, do not procrastinate. This is quite a process. Turn them in well before August 30th. If you're waiting till August 30th to submit your $5 qualifying contributions, I will guarantee you will not receive your primary election funding at all. And I have seen, I don't think I had anybody who turned them on the primary, but I may have had somebody who turned them in the day before the primary. And it was very stressful as to whether or not that person received their general election funding. Turn them in as soon as you can. Don't procrastinate. It seems like it's a long time away, but it's not. Oh, and if you go down to the county recorder's office, if you're here in Maricopa County, they have 20 some odd terminals that you can sit and you can verify the forms at. So they have terminals available to the public to make sure that these people are registered to vote and that they live within your district. So that is a good resource for you. So the contents of filing for funding. So after you verified all of your forms and you're going to apply for funding, you will generate your application for funding. This is found in the campaign finance reporting system on the Secretary of State's website. And when you print out the participating candidate's application, it'll generate two reports for you. It'll generate the application to receive funds, which actually looks a lot like your application for certification. And it generates a list of all of your qualifying contributions. And it's just the names and the date that they gave you a $5 qualifying contribution. And if you did utilize eQual, it'll print out your eQual report at that time too with all the signatures. So you will take all of those forms and your original $5 qualifying contributions, and those need to be sorted by county. If you live in a district that has more than one county in it, or if you're a statewide candidate, you do have to have your forms sorted by county because those go out to separate county recorders. And you'll take a single check made payable to the Clean Elections Fund and turn that into the Secretary of State's office. Now, also in your packet, there is a letter from State Election Director Eric Spencer to the Clean Elections Commission. And as of January 18th, they would like electronic packages also submitted to the Secretary of State's office. So prior to taking everything down to them, scan that entire package into a document that needs to be emailed to them. If you do not have access to a scanner, I have heard that they are going to have a scanner down there, but we also have a scanner here in our office, and we are happy to help you with that. You will need to bring in a new USB drive in the package because we can't insert an old used USB drive into our system. So just a little jump drive, bring it in, new in the package. I'm sure we'll have some here on hand too.
Does it have to be one file?
No. So the letter that I provided to you outlines exactly how the Secretary of State's office wants that to be.
Including file names.
Yes, including the file names.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, so it's very detailed. It's a two or 3 page letter from the Secretary of State's office. And they have also guaranteed me that down there, they are happy to advise the candidates on the application for funding procedure. So we have not yet had a candidate go through the electronic application process yet. So I'm excited to see who the first person's going to be. So,
You said
sorry.
people already qualified?
Yes, but they did it prior to January 18th. They turned, the people who already qualified turned in their 5s right after the new year, about the 4th or 5th of January. So, but I know that they are moving to an electronic system over there, and they would like to receive all of the $5 qualifying contributions scanned into a document and the applications to received funds scanned into a document. Because the statute requires that they receive the original copies, they do have to receive those. And once they receive those in the Clean Elections check, they consider your application package complete, and they will forward your $5 qualifying contributions to the Secretary of State's office. So we have not really
So each of our $5,
need to be scanned into an entire file. So you can run them all through as one file. And we have the capability here to do that in our office, and the Secretary of State's office should also have the capability to do that for you if you need to.
pull out one, scan it, pull out the other.
No, if you have a feeder, like a copy machine, you can go down to Kinko's and just say, I need all of these scanned into one file. Well, it all gets scanned into one file and saved as a single file on your jump drive and email it off to the Secretary of State's
Should I
office.
rip off the carbon off the yellow before I do that?
Well, yeah. Yeah, you're just gonna scan the white copies. So keep your records separate, because otherwise it's gonna get a duplicate in there. Excuse me. So it's gonna be quite a process. We'll be here, we'll be happy to help you, but this is also why we are encouraging everybody to apply early. We don't know what the system will be like. Yeah, it could be quite trying. So all the more reason to utilize eQual. You don't have forms. And it'll just print out everyone's signatures, and it can be scanned in quite easily. So if you do have questions and you can't get an answer from the Secretary of State's office, please contact us. We'll try to get an answer for you on any of your application processes. So the $5 qualifying contribution verification process, if you have not been through the Clean Elections process before, I'm going to walk you through that real fast. So the Secretary of State is going to forward your $5 qualifying contributions to the county recorder. If you have a district with more than one county, they will go out to more than one county. The county recorders are going to reject your forms if they are unsigned, undated, if the signature doesn't match the voter registration signature, if the person is not registered to vote in your district, and if the original reporting slip does not accompany the contribution, which is why they need to receive also a copy of the original $5 qualifying contribution, not just the electronic copy at the Secretary of State's office. So those are the only reasons that your form will be disqualified. So just please be aware of those. So the Secretary of State is not going to forward all of your forms at one time. They're going to do a random sample that's prescribed in statute. If you're running for a statewide office, it's a 5% random sample. If you're running for a legislative office, it's a 20% random sample. So that random sample is going to be sent to the county recorders. There's a change that happened in 2012. So if your sample accuracy is more than 110%, your funding is going to be automatically granted. If your sample accuracy is less than 110%, the Secretary of State's office is then going to forward all of your remaining $5 qualifying contributions to the county recorder's office, and they will start verifying those until they reach that minimum number that you need. And I do have a mathematical example. These are also in the elections guide that you received. I'm not going to do them both, but I'm going to go to the legislative sample just so you have an idea of how this works. So this is our assumption, a candidate for a legislative seat submits 300 qualifying contributions. The Secretary of State is going to take a random sample of 20%, and that's going to be 60 forms. So they'll take those 60 forms and forward them to the county recorder's office. The county recorder is going to go through those 60 forms and verify them for the items that we just went over. If 60 of those 60 are valid, the Secretary of State's office is going to use a mathematical formula found in the statute. They'll take those 60, they'll multiply it times 5, which is 300. They divide that number by the minimum number that you need to qualify, which is 250. That is 120%. Your funding is automatically granted. They are not going to check the additional 240 forms that you submitted. Yes, sir.
So when we're checking this foundation, so when we're going through it, we're checking our own files. What do we do if we have one that isn't valid? We're unchecked. Do we go back to that person and get a new form?
So if you come across a form that is not valid, you will want to either go back to the person, get a new 5, have it filled out. If it's somebody who merely doesn't live in your district or isn't registered to vote, you can use it as early seed money, as long as that person has not given you $160. So, and we'll go over those in a few minutes. So now let's say that only 54 of those 60 are valid out of the sample that's sent to the county recorder's office. 54 times 5 is 270. While it's still more than the minimum number that you need of 250, when you divide it by that minimum number, it's only 108, so, which is below the 110. So at that time, the county recorder or the Secretary of State's office is going to forward all of the remaining 240 $5 qualifying contribution forms to the county recorder's office. The county recorder is going to start verifying those forms, and once they hit 250 valid forms, they'll stop counting. So they won't check them all, they'll only check them up until you reach that minimum number. But I should let you know, the county recorder's office has 10 days, and those are business days, to check your sample. If your sample's not good, they have an additional 10 days to check your full set. That's potentially 20 days. This is why it is so important to verify your forms. This is also why it's so important to turn in more than the minimum number you need. If you just turn in the very minimum number of 250, it is mathematically impossible to qualify off of the random sample. But you still have to do the random sample because it's prescribed in statute. And the statute requires it. You can't just waive your random sample and say, I'm going to go for a full set review. That's not the process. The statute lays out the process. So I should definitely let you know, collect as many as you can. Makes your sample larger. The larger it is, the more you can miss. I have people who ask me, well, should I hold some back in case I don't, qualify right away? I say, no. You want to add those. As many good $5 qualifying contribution forms as you have, you submit those. That's the best thing to do. Yes.
So what would our math be on 5% on the state one?
It's the slide right before. So Yeah, your 5% is going to be 168. And that's assuming you collect 20% more.
Okay, good.
So you wouldn't want to be below 153.
Oh, wow.
So, but that gives you, but that's about 15, you know, that's about 10%. It's about 10% of your sample
All right.
that you can miss. A little less than.
Yeah, it is.
That change happened, it used to be 5% all across the board for everyone, and then that change happened in 2012 when we also got rid of our tax credit. So we had, 2012 was a rough year for clean elections.
Was that done by the legislature?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So that was a legislative change that was made. Okay, so what happens if you don't make that minimum number? You get one chance for a supplemental submission, and just one chance. But make sure that if this happens, and we'll talk closely, if you get to this point in the process, I will walk you through this. We'll become good friends by then, I promise. If you get to this point, you're gonna want to collect more than the minimum number required. And so in order to collect a $5 qualifying contribution, it's still gonna need to be before the end of the qualifying period. So this is why you wanna turn them in as soon as you possibly can, because if you run into any of these issues, if it's after August 23rd, you're not gonna be able to collect more fives. So you need to make sure that you're not missing any deadlines. So you wanna collect the minimum number that you need. You need to make sure that they are not duplicates from anybody who's given to you previously. And you need to make sure that you're able to continue to file those so that it's not after the primary election. So that's why when you bump up against those deadlines, you don't have the opportunity to supplement your fives that one last chance. So if at that point you still do not qualify for funding, you're denied all across the board and you have to start over 100%.
So if you are counting the 10 plus 10 days and backdating from August 23rd for your submissions, that's not quite enough time.
Correct. I mean, and I wouldn't say that it's going to take those 20 days, but you have to remember, if you have rural counties, it takes them longer than it does Maricopa County. They don't have the staff, they don't have the resources. Are you submitting your fives in the middle of the filing deadline? Petition challenges are going on. They have to verify all those signatures as well. So it depends on how busy the counties are when you are filing, but I will tell you the earlier you file, the more likely your funding is to go smoothly. I would say no later than the first week of August. And that's if you've collected more than 20%. So your clean elections funding amounts, this is the good stuff. You get 2 disbursements. One when you qualify, and that's for the primary election period. And then if you're successful in the primary and you're going on to the general, you receive another disbursement in the general election. If you are in an uncontested primary, I typically have your general election funding ready for you the day after the election. If you are in a contested primary, give me about 2 days to have that ready because I need to see the outcome of your race. We typically do have it ready for you before the canvass, so unless your race is super close and tight, I will have it ready for you that last week of August, first week of September, for you to come in and pick up.
Can we discuss the definition of uncontested?
Yes. What is your question about definition of uncontested?
My understanding is that, my question is, if there is no party opponent in the primary, but there are other parties having primary elections that you are contested.
That's correct. So, as long as there is somebody running against you as either an independent in the general election or in an opposing party in the general election, you will receive funds for the primary election period. So it's not necessarily within your primary that you have to be contested. And I reread the statute today because I needed to know the beginning of the primary election period when it starts. So, yeah, if you have questions, and if you don't, right. And right now, we don't know who is contested or uncontested because the filing period hasn't happened yet. So,
Well,
I can't tell you.
Theoretically, if in our corporation commission there's 3 vacancies, 2 Democrats running, we will get,
Correct. You'll receive your full funding, even if you don't have, 3 or 4 people in your primary, because your general election is going to be contested. There are people on the other side running against you. So you do have a contested race. Your race as a whole is contested. Now, if you're a legislative candidate and you live in a one-party dominant district, and I'm actually in the process of calculating those right now, I don't have them up, but I will have them up on our website by the end of the week. We use the March 1st voter registration totals, which the Secretary of State's office just published for us. I think it was last week. A one-party dominant district is a district in which the dominant party has 10% more registered voters than the next party. I love statute. It's my favorite. Comes out so well. And so even if you have a party with a majority, or you have one district with a majority party, they have to have 10% more registered voters in order to be a one-party dominant district. So if you are in a contested primary, which it does have to be a contested primary, you're in the dominant party, and you're in a one-party dominant district, you can reallocate your funding, which means you can take your general election funding amount during the primary and your primary election funding amount during the general. But you have to meet all 3 of those criteria. So just be aware of that. It is a box on the application that you check. Do you want to reallocate your funding? If you do, you check yes. Now, if you are applying for funding prior to the primary period, and the primary period starts June 28th, you'll receive a check for $16,044. And then you'll probably call me and say, Sarah, I wanted to reallocate my funding and I only got the primary funding amount. And I'll say, well, it's before the primary period. So as soon as the primary period hits, which is the 9 weeks prior to the primary, I will cut you a second check. And the remainder of it will be the $8,022. So you'll get 2 checks if you're going to reallocate and you qualify prior to June 28th. So a little bit of different process. Can get confusing until you're in it, and then you'll get it. So, but if you do have questions when you're applying for funding, let me know. Independents receive 70% of the combined totals for the primary and general elections. They do not have a primary, that's why they receive 70%. Their name is on the general election ballot. So they only receive 1 single disbursement as soon as they qualify. Receipt of funds. The Secretary of State typically notifies us within a week plus. So assuming you qualify off your sample, I've seen it take a day. I've seen it take 20 days. So just be prepared and hope that everything goes smoothly. And Secretary of State's office will notify us and they'll notify you. I've seen that so far this election cycle, they have emailed the candidates to say, you have qualified for funding, please contact Clean Elections, and they copy us on the email. Once we're notified, we'll process a check for you because we have to use the general accounting office and checks are run overnight. We typically have a check ready for you the next business day by 2:00 p.m. If you don't live in the Phoenix metropolitan area and you can't come by and pick up the check, we will FedEx that for you. I'm happy to do that, but I will do it for a signature. Somebody needs to be available to sign for the check, so whatever address you give me, make sure someone is there to sign for it, because for security purposes, I won't release a check that large without a signature.
we designate our treasurer.
Yes, if you, on your application for certification, designated your treasurer or as somebody who is able to make expenses in and out of your accounts, that person is able to come down to our office and pick it up too. You can also let me know in writing, so I need an email from you, in writing with the name of the person, if you want to designate someone else, the name of the person who's going to come and pick up the check. I will check their ID when they come. Just so I don't have anybody walking in saying, hey, I'm here to get, Tom Chapin's check. And I hand it out and you say, I don't know who that person was. So it'd be painful with the $100,000 plus dollars. So just let me know in writing if you're going to have a campaign manager or somebody come pick up your check for you. So campaign finance, reports, contributions, expenditures, usage of funds. Sorry, I will try to speed up this last part for you guys. Campaign finance reports. All candidates are required to file 6 campaign finance reports, whether you are traditional, whether you are a political action committee, whether you are a participating candidate. All committees are required to file 6 campaign finance reports. Participating candidates have up to 5 additional reports, depending on when you become a participating candidate in the cycle. So you might only file 8, you might file all 11. So it just depends. We do have a few extra campaign finance reports, one at the end of the qualifying period. So August 24th, there's going to be a campaign finance report due. And I will tell you, right here in the Clean Elections Guide, on the very second page, I have listed out all the important dates and all the campaign finance reporting dates for you. It'll give you the reporting period, so that's the period in which all of your campaign finance activity needs to be reported, and then the dates in which you can file that report. You always have about 5 days to file your campaign finance report. So at any time during that time, you can go on the Secretary of State system and file those campaign finance reports. All campaign finance reports are filed electronically through the Secretary of State system. So none of those are filed here. I find that if you stay on top of your contributions and on top of your expenditures, you should have no problem filing your campaign finance reports. And if you do have questions on your campaign finance reports, please call me. I'm happy to answer those for you. From anywhere how to enter things in, to give a refund, to itemize an expenditure, I'm happy to answer those. I actually have some slides broken down with screenshots. There are screenshots in this book on how to enter in campaign finance reporting expenditures, refunds, your $5 qualifying contributions. I have put a lot of work into this pamphlet, so please utilize it. I hope it helps you. I really do. But if you do want me to review your campaign finance reports ahead of time, there's a preview button in the campaign finance reporting system. You'll have to generate a PDF preview and email it to me. And I am happy to review that for you before you file it and make it public. I cannot review anything in the system until it's public. So I can't go in and review for you. I can only review if you send me the preview PDF. But I'm happy to do that for you and let you know if I see any errors or anything that you need to make changes to prior to filing. I'm very happy to help you with that. So please take advantage of that. I had somebody who I reviewed his reports every time, all of them, last election cycle, and I never had any enforcement problems with him. So please, we are here to help, and we will get you answers even if I'm not here in the office. Early contributions. So this is the money that I talked about previously when we talked about the qualifying period. So between August 1st and August 23rd, you can raise a limited amount of early contributions, also known as individual contributions, and personal and family money. So the individual contribution amount that you can raise for legislature is $4,011. For Corporation Commission, because it's a statewide office, it's $25,678. It's a little bit more. You can only receive $160 from individuals only. No PACs, businesses, unions, LLCs, trusts, estates, anything of that nature. It needs to be from an individual person only. This is monetary or in kind or as a loan. All of those are contributions. And $160 only, however that's comprised. They do not need to be residents of Arizona. So if you have a college buddy in Iowa or Ohio or, you know, a friend down in Florida, they can give you $160 for your campaign. They do not need to be registered to vote, but they do need to be a legal resident of the United States. So if they're a naturalized citizen, that's fine. Early contributions do need to be received and spent by August 23rd. Like I said, there'll be a campaign finance report that's filed at that time. I'll know if you have any leftover early contributions in your account. And if you do, you need to return those monies to the commission. Now, personal and family contributions, these are in addition to the early contributions. People get this confused. They think it's a part of that 4,000. This is in addition to the early contributions. So for statewide office, it's $1,420. And for legislature, it's $720. Now, personal and family money includes certain family members. And by statute, that is a parent, a grandparent, a spouse, a child, a sibling, and a parent or spouse of any of the above mentioned people. I've diagrammed for people on this because it can be very confusing. A mother-in-law, a father-in-law, a brother-in-law, a son-in-law, those are considered family members. Your aunt, your cousin, not family members.
Okay, so what about your
Stepchildren,
stepchildren and
family members.
stepparents?
Family members.
Okay.
They're gonna be family members.
But for the statewide race, $1,400 is over and above the seed money.
Correct. Right.
And if you have so many in-laws, big family, so many brothers and sisters, if that amount exceeds $1,400, that balance goes to seed money.
No,
They cannot
they
contribute
cannot.
more than that.
You can only contribute, you can only receive contributions, $160 from individuals only, from family members only, up to those amounts. Any family members who want to contribute to you over those amounts are not. They're prohibited from doing so. You can't say like, oh, you're going to be an individual and you're going to be a family member.
Oh, wow, okay.
So they're two separate pots of money. Yes, sir.
So I have a significant other. I'm not legally married. How does that play in for her donation and for?
They're not a family member.
Yes.
They're not, they're not. These are legal definitions, so,
That's my thing.
yeah, I mean,
So by that definition, spouse and
mhm.
in-laws, campaign cannot exceed more than 1420 from that.
Right. Because these come in, these are different schedules that report out on your campaign finance reports. So,
But from those people, we can go over and above the seed money by the 1420.
right, right. Now, only from $160 only. Now, you as the candidate can give your committee more than $160. So if Representative Mendez wanted to give his campaign the full $720, he could do that, but then he's precluded from receiving $160 from any other family members. But he can give his own campaign the full amount. So it's a little tricky. So if you are going to take more than $160 and you're like, oh, it's no big deal, my husband can write it because we write we have the same bank account. No. Make sure you write the check and you report that contribution from yourself because your spouse is limited to the $160.
So the whole family pot is $720.
Correct. This is the limit.
And if you get $680 from your family members, then the candidate can do the extra 40.
Correct.
And if you get
Or you could do the whole,
only get 40, then the candidate can do 680.
right,
Okay.
yeah. But you can't exceed the 720 at any time, and it can't go over $160 from anybody but yourself. So, and if you need help with this again, give me a call. I'm happy to walk people through this because it does get confusing, and I know people do think that 720 is a part of the 411, and it's not. It's in addition to. So really, you're getting 4731 is your whole amount. So, personal and family contributions also need to be received and spent by the end of the qualifying period, August 23rd. Any unspent personal contributions and family contributions need to be returned to the contributor. You can give it to the Clean Elections Fund, but you can also return it. Early contributions. So other than monetary and a straight up contribution, they can be a loan. A loan is considered a contribution. So if you want to loan your campaign the full 720, you can do that. You do need to repay yourself as soon as you receive your clean elections funding, and that's within 7 calendar days. You can't wait till the end of the election to see if you have any money left over, and then you're going to repay yourself. If it's a loan, and you repay yourself as soon as you receive your funding. Other individuals can loan you money, so they can loan you up to $160, and you can repay them when you receive your clean elections funding. That's permissible too. In-kind contributions are contributions of good or service or anything of value. So if somebody wants to donate cases of water, to your campaign for, walking or fundraising efforts, whatever it is, that's perfectly fine, but it's an in-kind contribution and it needs to be reported. It can also be a service. If somebody says, hey, I have a business, I do web design, I'll do a website for you. It's their hourly rate, what they would charge anybody else, but they can only donate up to $160, and it's an in-kind contribution. So those are examples of in-kind contributions. If you have questions about one, give me a call. I'm happy to get an answer for you. Campaign expenditures. An expenditure, by definition, is when a promise, a contract, or an agreement to make an expenditure occurs. So, yes, promise, contract, agreement. Hey, campaign consultant, yeah, I'll hire you. I'll pay you $1,500. You've made an agreement to make an expenditure. That's when your expenditure occurs. That's the statute. So just be aware of those things. It's not necessarily when the money changes hands. It's when you enter into a contract or an agreement or have a promise to make expenditures that those things occur. I've seen litigation around this, and it's not pretty. Expenditures include extensions of credit. And the one that I see a lot that has to be remedied, I saw it pop up again this year and I haven't seen it for a while. The parties offer voter access or registration roll access to their candidates. They allow them to pay a monthly fee over time. Well, right now, political party contributions are not acceptable. They can't do that. Parties cannot give an in-kind contribution to a participating candidate. So even though they're going to pay for that over time, they haven't paid in full, so it's considered a contribution. So until it's paid for. It's an extension of credit. They're saying, we'll give this to you, you pay for it over time. They're extending that to them. You need to pay for it all at one time.
What if, however, you use access to the voter registration file that's operated by the party for a specific and limited purpose? When it comes to the campaign, and you're developing a voter file for May, that involves hundreds of thousands of voters, that's one thing.
Now, if
Verification of voter registration for 1,700 people and the files of 6,000 for signatures is an entirely different matter.
So how I've seen it is that they're saying, hey, you can buy this outright for $600. Or you can pay us $300 a month, or you can pay us $50 a month. Well, if the total cost of that is $600, you can't pay for it over time. That's an extension of credit.
Okay.
You have to pay for that all at once, because if you don't, that extension of credit comes from, it becomes an in-kind contribution from the party to your campaign.
But I couldn't pay a monthly access fee that if I don't pay it,
Now,
it's cut off?
Now that sounds like something a little bit different than having the entire file given to you. If it's an access fee that for a service that doesn't cost $600, it's a straight monthly fee, then that's different. But if it's something that they're saying, hey, you can purchase all of this, but we'll work with you for a payment plan, that doesn't work.
I mean, we've been very careful about what was a violation, I can't remember the candidacy or the
Yeah.
like that, but where appeared, yes, I do remember. But anyhow, it appeared that an obligation was made about printing the signs. And they didn't have the money, but the signs went up the moment they got the check. So, I mean, so there was a clear thing here where they made an obligation of funds that wasn't in the bank. Now, we have been very conscious of that. We've narrowed every contract, we've reduced everything into a contract that you will do X, Y, and Z. And that's it.
Right, because you can't go into debt. And so
Can't
if
go
you are
into-
making expenditures
Or
beyond your
if I-
cash on hand,
Well, unless, well, I only have $3,000 into my account.
right,
We don't want you to do $5,000 worth of work,
right,
because that's an obligation.
right,
I can't obligate more than what I have in my account. That's been on our mind.
right. No, and
So
that's,
that is why we've done just what I suggested. I don't need the voter file for names, addresses, and names and full-fledged campaign. What I need to do is verify signatures.
So he
Now,
probably has a
that-
different relationship
yeah,
with the party.
yeah, it sounds like very much, because I know,
What about the people that have the other kind of relationship, where they paid, $50 up front and they're gonna pay the rest later on? What are you letting them do?
pay it outright. So either whether you need to loan your campaign money to remedy that, or raise seed money, but you need to buy that outright as soon as possible. And I did have that happen on somebody's campaign finance report, the January 31st report, and I worked with that person so that they could, they had the cash on hand to pay for it, so this person wasn't going into debt, because that's the other thing that you run into. When you get extensions of credit, you don't want to extend yourself out to where you don't have your cash on hand to be able to pay for it. That becomes a problem. But I mentioned the party issue specifically because the parties like to offer services to candidates at a discount or at, pay it out over time. That's not possible because it's an in-kind contribution to you, and contributions from the parties are prohibited. So that's why I mentioned that one. But if you find yourself in an instance that you think that maybe an extension of credit is going to violate, either going into debt or it's a prohibited contribution, you need to call me. We'll work it out. We'll figure out what to do, whether it's a self-report or something. But I will tell you, you do not want to get into the position to where you are reporting things and your opponent sees it, because they will file a complaint and we will have to do something. So if you think you've made an error or you need some help, please call me. I am happy to work with you on those things. Our executive director is happy to work with you on those things, and so are our commissioners. Our commissioners are not in the business of happily penalizing people for trying to be involved in the political process. So especially when you're doing your best effort and you're being honest. We try to work with the parties to educate them, and this sounds like it may need to be a re-education effort on our behalf, and reach out to them. But I just wanted to make you aware, you will hear a lot of things from a lot of people that's saying, oh, this is what the clean election rule is. Oh no, this is how you have to do it. Call me. I will tell you how you have to do it. Call our office, we will get you the right answer. Just don't take somebody at their word, whether they've run 6 elections or they've run 2, things change. So, but please call me.
Can we go back to in-kind
Mm-hmm.
contributions? What if somebody comes to who doesn't really have like a job doing,
It's a volunteer service.
then it's a volunteer?
If it's something that somebody receives money for, does from their day-to-day job,
Yeah.
that's an in-kind contribution. If it's somebody who, it's their hobby, that it's not their business, it's not their source of income, then it's a volunteer service. Okay. Credit cards. An expenditure is made as soon as you swipe your credit card. It's not 30 days later when you receive your bill. Authorized agents. You can authorize somebody to make expenditures on behalf of your campaign. What I like to use is if you have volunteers going around putting up signs for you and they need more rebar, you can say, hey, go to Home Depot, buy some rebar, I'll reimburse you. That's perfectly fine. Make sure you have money in your account to reimburse them. They need to be reimbursed within 7 calendar days, and you need to itemize that expenditure showing, hey, I reimbursed John Smith, and he spent this money at Home Depot. So, pretty easy. You can do that. Just make sure you pay him. Expenditure limitations, we've already gone over that early contributions, personal contributions need to be received and spent by August 23rd. Primary election funding does not roll forward to the general election. You have to utilize that during the primary election period. We have a campaign finance report that's due September 5th. I don't know, it's Labor Day weekend. So I usually give you to the Tuesday after to get any funds back to me. Have your campaign finance reports filed, return any primary election funds. General election funding, it starts all over, brand new, clean slate. With the general election funding, do not use any of your general election funding to pay off your, any expenditures from the primary election. So you have primary election spending and general election spending, 2 separate pots. Fixed assets. Fixed asset is an item that has a value or function beyond the campaign. Cell phones, cameras, computers, iPads. I had somebody buy a button press. Televisions, I've seen televisions. Had somebody who purchased 3 computers one time. All of those are fixed assets. And if fixed asset exceeds $200, you have an option at the end of the campaign. You can either pay the commission for 80% of the original purchase price of that item and keep it, because it's depreciated 20%. And then you can just, if you buy an iPad and you want to keep it, pay us 80%, you can keep it. Or you can give the item to the commission and we surplus it with the state. I will tell you, last election cycle, I didn't have hardly anybody bought fixed assets. Nobody bought fixed assets over $200, mostly because of this. Previous election cycle, we had a few fixed assets, but not nearly as many. Prior to that, we had a lot of fixed assets. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's just, where do you want to spend your money? Is it going to be reaching out to your constituents, or is it going to be buying fixed assets? So, yes.
In previous clean election campaigns, it was mandatory that we charge the campaign a portion of our cell phone. Is that still true?
I wouldn't say it's mandatory.
Oh.
You can.
Oh,
You can reimburse yourself. If you're going to be utilizing your own computer or your own cell phone, you just apportion it out. So, if you want to be reimbursed, if you see an increased data usage because of your campaign, and you want to be reimbursed from your campaign for that, just portion it out.
I thought,
We don't have a mandatory rule on that. So,
thank
yeah. Let's just say, I'm not going to call every clean elections candidate and say, you didn't report your cell phone usage.
With the,
So.
$200,
Uh-huh.
even with taxes?
Including tax, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I had somebody who argued with me at $199.79. Yeah, so, and I was like, that was a hard one. But then he bought all these other wires and cables and everything for it,
So if-
you know?
So if I buy other things, if I'm required to buy other things for that, then I have to add that into the purchase too?
Yeah,
But if it's
I mean,
just
like-
a iPad, it's under $200?
Yeah.
I can keep it?
yeah. You can keep it and not pay, yeah, I mean, if you're buying a camera or a cell phone or a computer or something for $175,
But then
it still needs to be reported as a fixed
I
asset.
have to buy something else to make that first thing work, and then that goes over $200?
I would say when it's a total purchase. I mean, it's how you're making this total purchase. I mean, I would have to look at it. I would say it's instance specific. I mean, there are some clear instances when people are, oh no, that was, I kid you not, it was $199.79. Like, I'm not even joking. And we haggled over 12 cents or 11 cents or whatever it was. I mean, when it's that close, it's kind of like, what's the spirit of this law when you went out and you bought $20 worth of cords, So, And ultimately, it's not up to me, it's up to my commission. So the 5 members of the commission sit up here and they will review any enforcement matter that there is. I'm not the end-all be-all judge and jury. So prior assets. If you have run a campaign previously, you can utilize prior assets. You just need to pay for 1/5 of the original purchase price of those, and that's to the commission if you're a participating candidate. If you are not a participating candidate, you pay 1/5 of the purchase price to your previous campaign committee. So, yes.
Right, so say I have a stack of yard signs,
Mm-hmm.
I need to, and I reuse them for the next cycle,
Mm-hmm.
I need to pay the commission 1/5 of the original purchase price.
Right. Yep. 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 Questions about that? Give me a call. Travel and food expenses. We've changed this a little bit this year. Previously, participating candidates could only reimburse themselves for mileage. It has now been changed so that a participating candidate can make a direct fuel purchase at the pump. So you can use your campaign debit card at the pump to fill up your car with gas. If you are going to do that, similar to reimbursing for mileage, you do need to keep a travel log. Because really, reimbursing yourself for mileage can often be more expensive than if you just filled up your gas tank. So when you're reimbursing at 44.5 cents a mile, it adds up pretty fast. So if you want to make direct fuel purchases at the pump, that's fine, or you can reimburse yourself for mileage. Just keep a travel log. I put a copy of a sample travel log in your packets. If you want the Excel spreadsheet on that, I can send it to you. You can make your own. Really, it's just keeping an itinerary of your trips, of your travels. If you have a large district and you're traveling all over, you're putting up yard signs constantly, just put the date down, how many miles you traveled. And really, if it was at 44.5 cents a mile, I'm sure it's going to be more than what the direct fuel purchase was. So,
it does not have to be any more detailed than this?
Nope.
In terms of an itinerary?
correct. Yeah. Now, if you are audited, the auditors will ask if you're making direct fuel purchases or if you are reimbursing yourself for mileage, they are going to ask for your travel logs. So,
That would be no more than a calendar, correct?
right. Yeah.
So if you elect to not reimburse, is
That's
that
fine too. No, that's fine too.
That's not an in-kind donation?
Nope.
if you're paying for your
Nope.
gas?
No, it's optional. It's optional. And it's optional for you whether you reimburse your volunteers. Now, your volunteers can only be reimbursed. You cannot go out and fill up pumps for everybody on your staff.
I can use clean elections money to reimburse
Volunteers for their mileage,
for the mileage.
for mileage, yeah, for mileage.
I don't understand under food reimbursement,
Uh-huh.
the second bullet, food expenses for fundraising parties, unless it's in kind.
Unless it's somebody who is, like, if they're donating water or something like
I
that.
thought that donation of water had to be counted towards their 160.
It is. Yeah, it's a food reimbursement rate. So food expenses for fundraising parties or volunteer events need to be reported and paid for with campaign funds. So you do need to use campaign funds, unless they're in-kind contributions of those. Like if somebody is, donating 50 pizzas or whatever it is, hopefully that doesn't cost more than $160. Maybe if you go to Costco, it won't. As long as it doesn't exceed those, then that's an in-kind contribution, and you don't need to use campaign funds to pay for it. Food reimbursement rates. Oh, well, did I have anything else over mileage? Did anybody else have questions over mileage or travel?
Second question.
Mhm.
How about like giving volunteers gas cards?
No on the gas card, because it'd be equivalent to filling up at the pump. So only reimbursement for volunteers, if you want to do that. That's an option, that's your choice. Let's see, bus tickets, plane tickets, rental cars, things like that need to be paid for with campaign funds. And in that instance, if you're renting a car and you're filling it up for fuel, that's an instance where you don't need to keep a travel log. So, food reimbursement rates per person maximums, I'll tell you these are the state reimbursement rates for when we traveled. $11 for breakfast, $16 for lunch, and $27 for dinner. I know. not good enough. Um, so food expenses, just be aware of those. The only exception to this, and I used to have a slide on it, but I'll mention it. If somebody wants to host an in-home fundraising party for you, a $5 qualifying contribution fundraising party or a meet and greet within your district, they have up to $100 per adult in the home to spend on food, invitations, beverages, whatever it costs to host that party for you. They have up to $100 per individual. So a husband and a wife could potentially each spend up to $100 without it being considered a contribution.
And I wouldn't have to count that for in-kind.
No, no. Now, if on that party they spend more than $100 per person, once you hit $100.01, the entire thing is considered an in-kind contribution. So not just the amount that's over, it's the entire thing. So be aware of that. You can ask your hosts for receipts if you would like. I recommend it, but that's up to you. But they have that amount of money to put on a fundraising party for you without it being a contribution. You can't require anybody to give you a $5 qualifying contribution to attend a party. What else? Yeah. Oh, and it needs to be in private property. It can't be at somebody's business. It can't be in a restaurant. It can be in a if somebody has a community center or a pool house within their developed area, that is considered. They pay an HOA. That's considered their private property as well. So as long as it's not their business or a restaurant or a church, anything like that, those are prohibited. But as long as it's on their private property in their home.
So if, say you bring you have a house party and it turns into a BYOB fest, can
I mean, I don't think there's any way that you can really,
why?
yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's any way that you can regulate that, but I wouldn't promote it as that. I wouldn't have it be like, everybody bring a bottle and we're gonna have a party. You know, but I wouldn't also check people at the door and say, you can't bring alcohol in here. But it's for that person in their home in order to spend that amount of money to put that party on for you. They have up to $100 per adult in the home. That's correct. Eligible to register to vote. So they would, yeah, eligible to register to vote. Remember that. They don't need to be registered voters, but they have to be eligible. And it has to be their money. It can't be an 18-year-old who got $100 from mom and dad. It needs to be their money. I have to say that. If you have questions about house parties, please call me. I'm happy to answer them. Petty cash expenditures. I personally do not like petty cash, but that is up to you. If you want to operate your campaign with petty cash, you are more than welcome to do so. I will tell you, if you do use petty cash and you are selected for a random audit, our auditors will ask you for your petty cash receipts and your accounting system for it. Your petty cash cannot exceed a cash balance of $1,420 at any time. One single cash expenditure cannot exceed $160. Be very diligent in keeping every receipt. I don't like it because you're probably giving cash out to a volunteer to go pick something up, and you don't know if your change or your receipt is ever coming back. So be very diligent. If you are going to do this, you do need to itemize it on your campaign finance reports. Campaign expenditures and family. If you're going to hire a family member to work for your campaign, that's perfectly fine. Just when you are reporting the expenditure where you are paying them, you need to identify them as a family member. So if you have a daughter or a spouse or a sister who would like to, who is an accountant, is going to be your treasurer, whoever it is that you're paying and they're a family member, it needs to be reported. Same for a family business. If you have a family business that does marketing or printing, anything of that nature that you're going to utilize for your campaign, it's fine to utilize them and to pay them, but it needs to be noted in the memo line that it's a family business. And I should note that a lot of these rules might seem obscure, but over 16 years of clean elections, these rules have evolved because of enforcement actions and complaints. So we don't just sit around and try to think of of new rules. So these are some rules that have derived over the years. Additional prohibited use of funds, cost of legal defense. So if you receive a petition challenge, you cannot use your clean elections money to defend that. You also cannot bring an affirmative claim with it. So you are able to have a separate segregated defense fund, legal defense fund, completely separate from your clean elections money. Don't put it in your clean elections bank account. Have a separate bank account for a legal defense fund, if that's what you're gonna do, if you're gonna do petition challenges or anything like that.
So if it's a legal defense fund, that's a whole separate body of law.
Yeah.
That you can accept
Contributions
on
and money for.
our, but
Yeah.
not if it's $160.
No. No. So, and if you're gonna do that, I personally have never seen somebody who's done that. I don't know of anybody who's ever established one as a clean elections candidate. I assume they do happen, but if you need more direction on that, I would definitely contact your party attorney. Also prohibited is personal use items. So this is household food items. Don't go to the grocery store and buy your child's, juice boxes with it. Clothing, do not buy clothing with it. Don't make your tuition payments. Don't pay your mortgage, your lease, none of your utility payments. Admission for sporting events, don't buy any entertainment tickets. Or dues, fees, gratuities at a country club, anything of that nature. Gifts, donations, do not do those things. Now, I do know that you can buy tables at events or pay for a booth at a fair or float in a parade, something of that nature. That is perfectly fine if you are doing that as a candidate.
What if it's to a party though? Like if the party's having the fair and I gotta pay $20 to put a table there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if it's what they're charging everybody else and it's a party, that's fine. Like if it's, LD 26 Democrats or whatever, and they're hosting something and you say, yeah, I need to buy a table here, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Something you're doing as a candidate. No fixed assets with a value over $800. So no $1,200 computers. Itemized expenditures, please itemize your expenditures. This is something that we look for. Don't merely say, I just gave all my clean elections money to my consultant and then not itemize anything, because what did your consultant do with all your money? Oh my gosh. Oh, and it turned off. So if you have questions on how to itemize anything, please let me know. I do have some slides. It's also in here on what needs to be itemized. So petty cash, vendors, things of that nature. Okay, post-election return of monies. Any money can't be transferred forward. We've already gone over this. All money remaining in your account at the end of the primary election period does need to be returned to the commission by September 4th.
Including any seed money?
Seed money needs to be returned in August after the close of the qualifying period. So after August 23rd, any remaining seed money in your account needs to come back to us. Primary money is about 1 week. Yeah, you either spend it or return it.
Wow.
Yeah. General election money, you have a little bit more time because the campaign finance report isn't due till December 8th on that one. So by that date, you should have everything reconciled, I hope. You can retain a sufficient amount of money to pay for any outstanding bills. So if you'd written some checks to return some stuff and those had not been cashed timely, you can retain that amount of money in your account. You just need to let us know what those are. Because after a certain amount of time, you'll just want to close your account and get it all wrapped up. After the date of the election, no new bills can be incurred. So don't take out ads in the newspaper after you win, thanking your supporters and using your money for those. Don't do things like that. Record keeping, keep all your records for 3 years. Bank statements, deposit slips, travel logs, contracts, your bills, your copy of the $5 qualifying contribution forms. And I'll tell you, I don't care if you keep that electronically. If you want to scan it all in and save it in a file and keep it, that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. However you want to keep it is fine. We do randomly audit candidates once during the primary election and once during the general election. We have amazing outside auditors who are very kind and do a great job. And if you are selected for an audit, I promise you it'll probably be the easiest audit you ever go through.
It was scary.
Representative Mendez went through one last year. Yeah, Jill was very nice, and it's actually very easy. And we present the audits to the commission with any findings that we have, and they typically approve your audits, and you go on your way. But it's just one way to make sure that, yeah, because really, until the audits happen, we actually don't see your bank accounts. We only see your campaign finance reports. So I like to say, make sure that everything that's happening in your bank account is reflected on your campaign finance reports. If those are bank fees, make sure you're putting your administrative bank fees on your campaign finance reports, things of that nature. And commission staff and auditors can request your documentation at any time. So if you receive a complaint, we will ask you for documentation on expenditures. Which I think you had a complaint last year too. you had a big year last year. So voter education, we have our voter education manager here, Gina Roberts, and so I'm going to let her talk a little bit about the candidate statement pamphlet and the debates and some exciting stuff that we have happening in voter ed. And our clicker works.
Thank you.
While you're still here, my understanding is that there's a deadline for submission of our candidate statements, but that we have to be qualified before we can submit them.
Hello, hi. Oh, and actually, before I jump in really quickly, can I ask what districts all of you are running in? I know, Representative, you're 26. May I ask what legislative districts? Not running, okay. Statewide? Great, okay. 15, okay. 15, great. It's my district. All right. Okay, that makes it easy. All right, thank you. So, debates. One of the functions of the commission in terms of our voter education program is we sponsor statewide and legislative debates. If you are a participating candidate, you are required to attend those, and I'll work closely with Sarah and communicate attendance to her. So just be aware, if you fail to appear at your debate, you could face an enforcement action, but you would just need to stay in touch with Sarah and I regarding that. For example, if you have an emergency or something to that effect. And the reason why I wanted to ask your districts is because we have just finalized our debate schedule for the primary election, and I wanted to give you all of those dates right now so you can put them in your calendar and schedule your vacations around them or whatever events that you may have. So for Legislative District 15, that debate will be held on July 12th at 6 p.m. So if you could put that in your calendar. It will be at the Hilton Garden Inn, which is at 1940 West Pinnacle Peak. And I will get this posted on our website, and I will send a formal invitation to you as well, but I just wanted to give you that date as soon as possible. And for District 26, that debate will be on June 29th at the Embassy Suites in Tempe, and that's 4400 South Rural Road. And again, that starts at 6 p.m. I do not have our Corporation Commission date just yet, so we work with Channel 8 to host those for us, and so we're still working those dates out.
Will there be a primary debate?
So, yes, we definitely want a primary debate. A debate occurs if, one, there's a participating candidate that's running in a contested election. We also invite traditional candidates to participate in these debates. So really the commission does everything that it can to actually make sure a debate occurs because we feel it's in the best interest for voters. If for some reason you happen to be the only candidate who wants to participate in that, we're going to give you 30 minutes and you can, have the entire screen to yourself, but we
But we won't have opposition in our primary. So there's 3 openings for but we will still have the debate.
if you have an uncontested primary, so if you do not have the opposition, we will likely still have that debate because we want to do everything we can for the voters. So I'm going to say that's 99% correct. If we run into that situation, of course, we'd have to work that internally because there's a large cost involved in that, but I believe the commission would support that because it would be in the best interest of the voters to still hear from those candidates, so likely yes. Let's see, so, our debates, I gave you those dates. Again, you'll get a formal invitation, that'll be forthcoming, and we'll post this schedule on our website, just to let you know. We have a packed schedule because we have to plan for every single district and all the candidates, and we really don't have any wiggle room to reschedule. So unfortunately, the date is set, and so we just wanted to get that information to you as soon as possible so you can get it on your books. Our candidate statement pamphlet, you'll be hearing from me shortly soon. We are going to be opening up our system online. May 18th, I believe, is the first day to submit your statement, your photo. And just a reminder, when headshots, so we like to ask that we don't get family portraits. We want the picture of you. While we appreciate your family, but we believe the voters want to see your face, and we only have so much room. So if you could just crop it down to a headshot. Again, in my email, when I reach out to you, I'll have all of these instructions for you. So the deadline to submit your statement for the primary election, it's midnight at June 10th. Please consider that a hard deadline because we have translation deadlines, we have printing deadlines, and we have no wiggle room with those vendors. So those deadlines are outside of our control. So I would recommend you start writing that statement right now. Use Microsoft Word for your word count. That's what we use. If you go past 200 words, in the middle of the word, it's going to chop off. So it's automatically 200 words. Again, as you're out there campaigning and thinking about your platform, we encourage candidates to utilize the candidate statement pamphlet as a means to tell voters what your campaign platform is. Has everybody seen that? Do you all remember what it looks like? Great. So we've made some changes this year. We are actually sending district-specific candidate statement pamphlets out to voters. So instead of giving this thick booklet with all the districts that aren't, applicable to the voter, they're now going to get a smaller booklet that has just the statewide candidates and their district-specific candidates. So hopefully that'll be less intimidating for the voter and they'll be more inclined to read it. Yeah. All right, let's see.
So June 10th is the deadline for that. You
Mhm.
can only submit it if you have also submitted your $5 qualifying contribution to the center.
So the pamphlet is open to participating candidates and traditional candidates. You can submit it.
You can do it even if you haven't hit your August 23rd deadline.
You can do it. So basically what's going to happen is after this deadline, we're going to review all the statements that were submitted. We're going to confirm, were you qualified as a participating candidate? Should you be listed as a participating candidate in the pamphlet? Did you actually qualify for the ballot? All of those things. So May 18th, if you want to get your statement in there, I fully support that. That would be very helpful to us. And then, after the deadline, we'll take a look and we'll make sure that everything's in order in terms of qualifications. Also, so one thing new, I don't know if any of you have ever submitted a statement before. Of course, Representative, you have, but one thing new that you'll see is Clean Elections is launching a new tool for voters this summer. And thanks, Sarah's reminding me to switch through the screen. And I'm actually going to jump ahead of that. So a new tool that we're launching for voters, we're calling it the Candidate Compass. And basically what it does is it takes that candidate statement pamphlet and it turns it into a digital tool for the voter. Not just so much that you pull up a PDF on a website, but that they can interact with your statement. They can engage with it. So when you're submitting your 200-word statement through your candidate profile on our website, you're going to be presented with a series of questions as well that you can answer yes or no, and then you can also explain why you're answering those. And the way the tool works for the voters, when they pull up this information on their smartphone, they go to our website and they pull it up, this Candidate Compass tool, they're going to answer the same exact questions. And then the tool is going to filter through everything and it's going to show them exactly how they answered that question compared to how you answered that question. So we think that will be a useful tool for the voters in terms of it really helps them understand where the candidate stands on positions compared to that voter. So it's really taking that candidate statement pamphlet and making it a little bit more interactive for voters. So I just wanted to let you know, if you've submitted a statement before, in addition to your 200 words, your photo, we're also going to ask you to answer these questions as well. So I definitely encourage you to make use of that because we're definitely going to be...
How soon will we be getting those questions?
You will, so we'll open the... Probably, that's a good question. The first day to submit your statement is May 18th, which will mean you can answer those questions as well. I know you'll probably need some time on how you want to answer those. Again, they're going to be binary, yes or no, so you would think most, candidates would know where they stand on those positions and have the ability to explain, because that's part of your platform. Again, it's taking that 200-word statement and making it interactive. I think initially we were thinking they would just be there on May 18th when you open them up, but we could probably give them to you in advance when I send you the instructions on how to access and create your candidate profile.
And I hope the Corporation Commission questions those five.
Yes, actually, thank you.
Make it worth it.
Well, thank you for asking that, because we will actually have two separate sets of questions, one for our statewide candidates and one for the state legislature, because, we could see where there might be some differences in what would be applicable.
Right.
So, yes, we will have two sets of questions. Mhm. Thank you. No, they are not. So the candidate statement pamphlet's going to be limited to your photo, your contact information, and your 200-word statement. This is really to support this new tool for voters so they can engage and understand what your platform is more. And I'm going to jump back. One new thing that we've launched, and so if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you can download the Clean Elections smartphone app. So we launched this probably end of February. We haven't really done too much to promote it just yet. We'll be doing that in about a month or so. But we did a soft launch of our app, and basically this allows voters to access all the logistical information that they need to vote, such as finding their polling place, looking up their voter registration, registering to vote. In Yavapai County, we did a pilot feature where we could actually provide voters with wait times at the vote centers, and so we're hoping to expand that with other counties. We will also have your statements on there as well too. So when you create your candidate profile, voters will be able through the app to see your picture, your contact information. You can put your Facebook page there. You can put your Twitter handle there. If you have a website that has like you can connect there. If you have a portal, like a eQual $5 qualifying contribution form, you can see that too, although at that point it might be a little too late. But anyhow, it'll have all of these tools for voters, and so just wanted to make you aware, because if you were an iPhone user, you can download it now. We are working on the Android that's forthcoming. All right, well, does anybody have any questions on debates, our candidate statement pamphlet, our app, our tool? Pretty much the gist is, when you get your invitation, your formal invitation for the debate, that'll have everything you need to know to prepare for it, and just make sure you attend. So you don't risk an enforcement action, and I encourage you to start preparing your statement now. That way you can submit it as soon as possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very well done, both of you. Thank you.
And if anybody needs any $5 qualifying contribution forms, I can get those for you. Somebody need any? Okay, all right.